I've been in politics since high school. I've been working in people's campaigns, and actually Tim Scott, I first scored Tim Scott here in Charleston County Council in '95. I've been around, I've been doing it for a long time. You get to know people, and you're going to find this out. Your career is going to be as a doctor. Network is going to be absolutely important in what you do. You're not going to know everybody the first year, but 10, 15 years down the road in your profession, you're going to know a lot of people, and you're going to need them. You're going to need them to get things done. You're going to need to collaborate with them on projects. You're going to need to find out people working in your field, how you approach the situation. So apparently they feel they need me sometimes, and they come to me for my opinions, but at the same time I try to respect that, and then try to be fair, thoughtful, and give them something to think about. And sometimes I need them too. So it really is an organic process. You work with people, and you're going to find this out in your profession. Networking is the #1 thing you got. If you don't have it, you're not going to succeed at anything in life. But ultimately, to get back to what I just said in the last question, you can't always agree with everybody. You don't ever want to tell them what they want to hear. You tell them what they need to hear, and you back it up. And be fair and respectful. And simple about it. And they respect that. I get along, there's an R next to my name generally, but you find a lot of Democrats who get along great with some of the leading Democrats in the state who get along great because they know I'm going to be fair. And they know if they really got to talk to me, the door's open. As a professional, you need to do that too. And good luck. That's very difficult for you to get into. It's getting more and more expensive than they call malpractice. Okay, who else?
Charles, that last year on said USC study business management.
Okay.
Since you were last at the new media hasn't made much progress in gaining the public trust, what would it take for the new business?
I'm sorry, what would it take to what?
The new media hasn't made much progress in gaining the public trust. What would it take for it to improve that business?
I think we put too much. We have too high a set of expectations for news media. I mean, they're just people. And you take news media, most TV stations, newspapers are cut their staff by half or more. It's a lot harder than to get their fast care. I think most of them try to do the best they can, the best way they know how, but they're not perfect. I'm not a perfect blogger. I don't screw up very often, but sometimes I do screw up. I think the news media can do is they need to admit their limitations. They need to admit that there's only so much they can do. They need to encourage their people to go get their information elsewhere. But how many of y'all go to one place for your news every day? There's one place you always go and you never go anywhere else. How many of y'all are one news media source people? How many are 2 or 3 news media source people? How many of you are 4 or more news media source people? You've already got the answer. News media doesn't have to tell you that they're flawed. You know it, that you balance it out, don't you? It's buyer beware. And for some reason we had an expectation that you go buy a computer, do you just walk in one place and buy the first thing you see? No. You want to ask somebody out on Friday night, do you get some opinions? Maybe you have a couple options. Your parents go shopping for a house, are they going to look around? So why do we expect news media is supposed to be, you're supposed to just trust one place just because? You don't trust one home, one computer, one store? So that's part of the problem. I think we've expected too much of news media. But news media could probably be a little more honest sometimes. But they are the limitations. Dan Ryer was in a hurry in 2004 to talk about this memo that George Bush supposedly got out of a transfer to Vietnam to fly combat air missions. Well, Dan Ryer got the memo because he absolutely didn't have time to wait for 11 o'clock news because he knew if he didn't get on 7 o'clock news, what was going to happen before 11 o'clock. Yeah, and what y'all know about what happened with that memo? It was fake. USA Today had to get all their editions printed one morning and told you 13 miners found alive in West Virginia. They printed 45% of their editions and then they found out what? They did find 12 of 13 miners dead. They had a deadline. They had to run with it. So that's one of the things they could admit sometimes that they're a little they miss it sometimes. But most of y'all have already figured this out, haven't you? You're going to get a balanced perspective. That's really, to some extent, it's two-way street. News media makes mistakes. They shouldn't admit it, but shouldn't we recognize that everybody makes mistakes and protect ourselves? Believe me, I do all the time in my business. Who's next?
My name is Alexis. I'm in the 6th grade.
Okay.
And I plan on going to college and being a counselor.
Boy, you have to have a thick skin and good ducking skills sometimes.
How do you use different forms of media to effectively deliver information to people from different generations?
You know, it's strange. Generations is certainly one measure. It's certainly, also demographic information tells you about who your audience is. And in marriage counseling, you got to consider that too in your own profession. You got to consider different people, different attitudes, how they communicate. You may ask some people, "There's a website I need you to go look at and read." You're not going to do that. People are going to not go on websites. You're going to have to put a hard copy in their hands. Generationally, one way of measuring how an audience views things, but it's not always going to be the case. I'll find people, some of y'all probably hate text messages. You want somebody to call you. How many of y'all have that point you want somebody just to call you? All of y'all prefer text messages over a normal conversation? You're not going to talk to me very much, are you? You need to, it's what they call, in my public speaking classes, we call it audience analysis. And you don't always presume it's a generational thing. You can certainly make some general assumptions. You can start talking to people to figure out where they're at. You might make some assumptions where they start out. You need to keep an open mind of where they are. If you just make an assumption, this group thinks this way or works this way, you're going to find sooner or later you're going to be wrong, and it's going to make you look bad. You look at your audience, you look at how they communicate. Like I said, I described with my county's rural project, I changed how we communicate to a way that's effective for that area. And it worked. I've got an interstate project on I-26 in North Charleston, and I don't use anything but websites. I use Twitter. I use Facebook. They're very effective. But if I'm doing a widening in the residential area, I'm going to provide copies, provide a monthly piece for all the community newsletters in the area. But on I-26, I don't do that. But because it's a large, major project on a big section of highway in Charleston, I can do things that I wouldn't do with a community neighborhood widening project. I can get on talk radio. I call morning shows. I can do about 5 minutes every month or so with how's the project going, what's coming up. You got to be smart as a professional communicator, and to some degree, all of you are going to be communicators, and your profession is going to depend upon it. So don't think just because you don't have communication next to your title, you're not going to be talking. So it's understanding your audience, understand how they work. Don't make generalized assumptions. You can use those starting points to figure out what works, but you cannot and never should assume you got people figured out. Some people are tech savvy. As savvy as y'all are, they're savvies. Some people, I remember when I was in middle school, my forte was always teaching me how to use computers at all, and I was the person who could deal with things, fix things, and that stuck in my head. Gosh, I better always stay on the cutting edge, so I don't have to be this person 30 years from now looking at somebody, can you show this? I don't know how to use this. Back then, computers, people were just getting their first ever computers. They were called Apple IIs in schools. They were big, they were bulky, they were monochrome displays. They didn't have speakers, they just beeped. Yeah, very different concept, right? Who's next?
I'm Deshaun, in 9th grade, and when I get out of high school, I'm going to National Guard for the Marine.
Okay. And you're Air Force ROTC right now?
Yeah.
Boy, that's going to be a change. The Air Force to Marine Corps. Hey, you go to Marine Corps, at least you can stay in South Carolina basic, right? Yeah. Beaver's a good place. You'll never get to see it though. Your parents out.
How can social media be an effective tool and important? What social media platforms do you use, like texting, Twitter, Facebook, to deliver news content? And what do you think might be the pros and cons of delivering news content through these platforms?
I think sometimes it depends as much on your approach as your audience. Goes back to the last question. I do have Twitter.